He kua ka marangaranga, he kua ka marangaranga. Ko tahi tamanui tauatu ki te tahuna tauatu. Tauatu. Tauatu e home I e. Hui e. Taiki e. This week on The Hui.
Restoring pāua stocks in the Hauraki Gulf.
Paua are massively important to the ecosystem.
Imagine life without kaimoana. That's our DNA, that's our whakapapa, that's our everything.
A combination of mātauranga Māori and Western science is making a big difference.
If we don't do something now, what's left in there will also disappear.
And we sit down with award-winning producer Chelsea Winstanley about her first feature documentary, TOITÜ Visual Sovereignty.
Ngā manu whititua kua wehe roto I ngai iwi ngā mate o te wā haramai. Haere, tātou kei te pito ora ti hewa Māori ora, and welcome back to The Hui. Paua, they're the divas of the kaimoana world, and in one region, their numbers are too small to ensure their survival in the wild. But one iwi is determined to change that with a groundbreaking project using traditional knowledge and Western science to turn the tide.
Paua are like little divas, super fragile. They need everything to be perfect. If the water is too cold, too hot, too salty, not salty enough, dead. One cut and they'll bleed to death. Haemophiliac. So Paua are super fragile, super special.
Getting a feed of Paua around Waiheke Island is a thing of the past.
No one for many years has gathered legal-sized Paua.
In fact, Paua are on the verge of disappearing altogether.
The fact that their species are all declining at such a rapid, remarkable rate is all the evidence you need.
But the combination of Western science expertise and mātauranga Māori, along with a determined iwi, is bringing hope.
If we don't do something now, what's left in there will also disappear.
Māori legend says Tangaroa, the god of the sea, hid the beauty of the Paua's inner shell with a drab, rough cover to protect it from the envy of other sea creatures. Today, there are far more threats to its survival in the wild around Waiheke Island.
A lot of our taonga species that we were raised on and brought up on, that we just expected would be there, is no longer available. And that's devastating for us as an iwi, but particularly for future generations, to think that my mokopuna would never experience certain kai.
In 2021, Ngāti Paua placed a 2-year rāhui on gathering kaimoana around Waiheke, including Paua.
We discover that there's less than 200 Paua, and all of them are undersized. And which is why we put the rāhui down.
But numbers continue to fall.
Imagine life without kaimoana. That's our DNA, that's our whakapapa, that's our everything.
A more extreme approach was needed. At dawn, a team sets off from Auckland Harbour to Waiheke. It includes marine ecologist Paul-Burke from Waikato University.
Paua are massively important to the ecosystem. As they're so fragile, if Paua are not thriving, that's a tohu that their habitat is degraded.
With Kura is her husband Joe, a marine advisor, and Ngāti Paua iwi members like Aotearoa skipper. They're part of Paurāhui, a project where 5 Hauraki Gulf iwi are restoring kaimoana. It's taken 2 years to get to this point. It began with interviews of iwi members to identify, then map the areas where Ngāti Paua harvested Paua.
Our team were able to go out and go directly to those areas to do the population count, is through the mātauranga.
The team also spent weeks clearing 11 hectares of kina barrens around Waiheke.
Part of the reason they're unhealthy is kina.
The decline of crayfish and snapper has led to an excess of kina.
So they're starting to creep in shallow and compete for space and kai. So the pāua are being made homeless and they're having no food. Part of preparing the house was that we removed 5,000 kina, and that's an ongoing thing. Like, you know, when you clean your house, you don't just clean it once, we wish. But you've got to keep going back. The pāua population was in such a dire, functionally extinct state that we needed experts who were able to not only care for our pāua and whakapiki tā rātou Maori, because they were unhealthy. So we needed to get them healthy enough to see if they could make babies. Could we take boys and girls to what we called the Paua hospital, which for us was the Arapawa Sea Farms. The logistics were immense.
TLC at the Marlborough facility worked.
What was really astounding was when they were in the Paua hospital, some of them grew up to 28 millimetres in a year. So that's how important their whare or their habitat is to not only their growth rates, but also their ability to reproduce.
The result was thousands of baby pāua.
Paua, they're broadcast spawners, so there's no dating, no movies, no dinner. The boys just shoot their sperm into the water column, and the girls, deeply disappointed, release their eggs. And then the sperm and eggs come together and make babies. They are so tiny that millions can fit onto one teaspoon. They're pretty cool.
And today the team is reseeding 80,000 baby pāua.
That's got to be 1,500 right there. That's a huge bag.
Everyone matters. You never know which one's going to make it.
4 secret sites around Waiheke have been prepared.
This is also the same area where we cleaned the house, the whare, and we removed all the kina. So the pāua, our mokopuna, have a good chance here.
When I think of pāua, I don't think of them as some alien foreign species. I think of them as my whanaunga, as my kin. Just like we do with our mokopuna, with our grandchildren, we try to feed them up, give them good shelter. It's the same concept. We create a kohanga or nest to house some of the mokopuna as a refuge. They are just like big cages with holes so they can go in and out at will, but that way, because they hide away for so long, we want to be able to go back and monitor them. When we put them into the ocean, Ngāti Paua already had that protection in place for them to adapt, acclimatise, grow and stabilise a future population. So that mātauranga Māori in terms of rāhui is pivotal to this project.
So, you just went and increased the population by 36,000%.
Yeah, crazy.
The regeneration of pāua by Ngāti Paua also extends to its younger generation.
Nobody knows their water better than the locals. Nobody. And part of that working with Ngāti Paua, with the iwi, is their youth. They know their water because they're in it all the time with us. They're part of this work to change. Accepting what we are now is unacceptable, really. We trained our young people and they've been in the water with us always.
We are here, whānau. We are here giving back to the taio.
They have participated and observed how to do pāua population surveys. And also their job in the water is to document what fish are present, what types of kelp is there, etc. That's to ensure a connected responsibility for our young people and them one of the future.
So they're at university now doing marine science. We've had ones that have done their masters. We've had taiohi gone off to learn te reo Māori, so it grounds that mātauranga. One of the things that's really important within our iwi is becoming practitioners of that knowledge so that we can bring our moana back into balance and retain that whakapapa of those taonga species.
We don't have to live with a dying ocean. We really don't. We don't have to give up. Tūmanako, there's always hope, but hope must come with action.
Nā wena harawira tērā pūrongo tarakau e hua ana he kōrero pōti te haere ake nei. We talk Māori Wards and Māori policy next with Kassie Hartendorp from Action Station, who's with us next. Kia ora mai anō, he hui tōranga pū I ai nei, as well as choosing councillors this October. Voters around the motu will also have a bit of a kōrero about Māori Wards. Joining us now is the Director of Action Station. She's joining us again this year on the hui. We have Kassie Hartendorp. Kassie, tēnā koe, nau mai, hoki mai, e hoa, good to have you. Okay, Local Government New Zealand has said that Coalition Government's bill was a complete overreach. What do you think the government is trying to achieve with the Māori Wards option, Māori Wards kōrero, in the elections this year?
Well, first of all, we had a perfectly good system for Māori Wards working. So in 2021 the law changed and they got rid of referendums, which meant that it was easier for councils to set up a Māori Ward. There was a 1,500% increase after that law changed. And then, as we know, the coalition government has now reversed that law and brought back referendums. And I think they're doing it for two reasons. I think the first reason is to mobilise their base and say, look, we are making it easy for you to get rid of Māori Ward seats. So it's first of all to shore up their voter base. And then secondly, I think it is about reducing the political authority and the decision-making positions that Māori hold. I think it's easier for governments like this one when Māori have less of a say, whether or not it's in government, whether or not it's in council, and this is a way to be able to get rid of those positions.
Do you think the government was surprised by Local Government New Zealand saying what it's saying, by councils saying actually they wanted to keep the Māori Wards because it helps in terms of decision-making processes, particularly around things like local issue authorities and things of that nature? What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's amazing that local councils have stood by their Māori Wards because in reality they're working. They make a big difference. They're good for lots of different reasons. They're good for the entire communities. Councils can see the value that they're bringing to their communities. The problem is that this is an ideologically motivated attack on these seats, on these roles, under the guise of democracy. So, we have National saying it's about strengthening democracy, but what they've actually done is overreached and gone into local communities who have already supported Māori Wards and come through and told them they either have to vote against them or have a referendum that they know has a high chance of losing. And then they can wash their hands clean of it and say, look, the community has spoken, it's not up to us, it was democracy in action, when they know it is rigged.
That phrase you just used, this is just democracy in action. Is it though?
No. Absolutely not. I would actually say that it's closer to authoritarianism.
Really?
And the reason is because communities have already decided that they wanted Māori Wards in 45 different areas, more if you include the ones that already existed. And so this is a backtracking, and this is central government telling local communities what they should be doing against their will.
Do you think this will have a divisive effect?
Absolutely. There have been referendums in the past, the government knows this, and at every referendum it causes the people who are the most racist to come out and cause division. At past referendums, which have already had, people talked about abuse, talked about digital abuse, about threats, death threats, to anyone who supported Māori Wards. We know this is used as a vehicle for division and for hate, and the government have basically said, go for it.
What are you hearing on the ground in terms of the flow of the way people are thinking in communities at the moment? Is there any chance that many of the Māori Wards will continue to survive or not?
I think there's a strong chance.
Okay.
We work with over 30 different local contacts and groups who are running local campaigns in their areas. And I'll tell you right now that the energy is incredible. People are so excited. They're already out at stalls, they're talking to people, they're taking action, and I think we have a real shot at keeping as many of these as we fight for.
Why do you think that is?
I think we've come a long way when it comes to Te Tiriti o Waitangi, and I also think that we've had these Māori War councillors on their councils. There haven't been any problems. They've actually contributed to their entire communities, not even just Māori, and people are seeing it. They know who the people are. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's nothing to hate. They're there serving our communities, and why not just let them?
Do you think there's also been the influence or the impact of the TOITÜ Visual movement that may have, it saw a lot of people, particularly on the hikoi, a lot of non-Māori join that protest. Do you think that also could be playing a part in terms of the way people are thinking about Māori wards at the moment?
Absolutely. I think that actually over the past few decades, thanks to the people who came before me, certainly, they've really pushed to be able to make sure that we honour Te Tiriti o Waitangi. And I think that we're not living back in the 80s or the 70s or the 60s. People have come a long way. And really, I think that the Treaty Principles Bill and the TOITÜ Te Tiriti movement have just given people a chance, an excuse to show their support that is already there. I think many of the racist right-wing parties actually underestimate the support out there for Te Tiriti o Waitangi, and this is going to be a test of that.
The government has also announced proposed changes to our voting system that will end up having things like, getting rid of same-day enrolments in elections. Paul Goldsmith, the Minister, said this is a package aimed at strengthening our system. What do you make of these proposed changes?
I don't agree with that at all. I think it is a very cynical, bad faith attempt to suppress voting amongst the populations who are less likely to vote for the current government. There is no two ways about it. If you are serious about any of the claims that they've made, you have to also know that people don't change their behaviour just easily in 1 year. There are going to be people who show up at the polls next year on the same day or 12 days in advance thinking they can enrol, and they're going to be turned away at the polling booths, and the government knows it.
Who are the ones who are going to be most adversely impacted by these proposed changes, do you think?
Sure. Well, the Electoral Commission says that the most people who are more likely to vote or cast special votes come from Māori communities, come from Asian communities, Pacific communities, and they're young people. And these are people who traditionally don't always vote for governments like this one as well. So in one swift foul swoop, they've managed to be able to do two things: marginalise and disenfranchise more people, and marginalise, disenfranchise people who might not vote for them.
Just one more thing. In the last week, we've seen many people complaining that they thought they were enrolled on the electoral roll and then found as they've gone to check their information, they aren't. Is there anything sinister behind that, do you think?
I think there needs to be more of a look into it, but what I'm concerned about is we've got a government out here saying we need to improve our system by disenfranchising marginalised communities instead of looking into their own existing internal systems and seeing whether or not they're actually working for people right now. There is an inconsistency here. Their priority is not on making the system better, it's on disenfranchising more communities who already are less likely to have a say.
Kassie, Director of Action Station, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. Tēnā koe. It was, of course, Kassie Hartendorp from Action Station, Aotearoa, haere ake ana. E te iwi he kōrero paki pūmeka. We sit down with award-winning filmmaker and now documentary maker Chelsea Winstanley to discuss her new doco, TOITÜ Visual Sovereignty. Ko te hui tēnei e mātai nui ana ki ngā take toi o te wā. TOITÜ TOIORA in 2020 was the largest collection of contemporary Māori art ever exhibited in Toi o Tāmaki, Auckland Art Gallery's 133-year history. More than 300 artworks across painting, sculpture and other disciplines were exhibited, featuring the work of 110 of our most talented ringatoi Māori. In her directorial debut, film producer Chelsea Winstanley documented what was going on behind the scenes of the landmark art exhibition, a project that took a life of its own. Rohani Pereira sat down with the Ngāti Ranginui Ngaitarangi creative about the challenges both on and off camera.
Toi o Tāmaki, Auckland Art Gallery, Tāmaki Makaurau's main public art space, housing works that trace Aotearoa's colonial past. Opened in 1888 at a time when Māori art was suppressed, that all changed in 2020. Māori artists and their creations were visible like never before.
The art gallery in its 132 colonial years had never given that much footprint to contemporary Māori art before.
The TOITÜ TOIORA art exhibition was the brainchild of artist and the gallery's curator, Nigel Burrell.
Oh my gosh, how do I unify 111 artists with their distinct voices their nuanced investigations in Māori art and culture.
I actually heard about what was going on at Auckland Art Gallery TOITÜ Tāmaki probably back in 2018. Nigel was talking about profiling 111 artists, over 300 artworks, 10 commissions, installations. There was so much going on, and as he was talking about this, my brain just started thinking visually, like, whoa, what goes on to put all that kind of stuff together? That sounds like a mammoth task. And so I was just getting quite excited.
First Indigenous female producer to be nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars, Chelsea Winstanley.
I was still in LA at the time. Then things started going a bit crazy, in America. COVID, pandemic was kicking in, Black Lives Matter was kicking in. My kind of life in LA and my relationship and my marriage had kind of imploded spectacularly.
That marriage to fellow filmmaker Taika Waititi lasted 7 years.
It was all these things that were just going to me, I think it might be time to go home.
Back home, Chelsea's idea for a behind-the-scenes documentary took hold.
I don't think people really understand what goes on behind the scenes to put something on that huge. And I just said to him, Nigel, who's following you? Who's documenting that? And he was like, I don't know. Do you want to do it? I said, yes, please.
TOITÜ Visual Sovereignty began as a fly-on-the-wall look at how the show was curated, bringing over 100 Māori artists together.
I think as a documentary filmmaker, you just have to be there and be prepared to experience what's coming your way. It's not my job to kind of interfere in any way.
Art galleries are a pretty alien space for Māori, aren't they?
They can be, and they have been in the past, and they're traditionally actually not set up to really, showcase our mahi or our work or celebrate. These institutions can be places of maybe one artist or, you've got one piece of work in there by one person. Whereas the thing about Māori art and collectivism is kind of akin to whānau hapu iwi relationships.
The TOITÜ Toiora exhibition ran for 6 months and had a massive impact.
I mean, look at the number of Māori visitors, doubled from 7% in 2020 to like 14% in 6 months,
Yeah, just to see moko kauai and mataora in this space and to see our people in all these spaces. I was filming just streams of school kids coming through and just the intergenerational impact that that's going to have. It's just incredible. It's so beautiful to see.
For half of those who attended the show, it was the first time they'd set foot in the gallery.
And I think that was the aspiration for the show, especially from Nigel's perspective. He wanted that to be a catalyst for artists, young people to come and go, oh, wow, I can be an artist too. This is my featured directorial debut. And I suppose I'm nervous because I want to make sure I've done right. I thought I was going to make something so incredibly celebratory. And then things started to unravel.
During filming, things at the gallery started going off script.
And when things did go down, it's kind of like, okay, this has now become part of the storyline. The curator and the director, they were at odds. There's a whole lot of drama going around that I hadn't expected. And I didn't want that to trump the actual overall message of what this was. It didn't deserve to end like that. 5 years is a long time to work on something, but I knew I couldn't finish it how I had originally thought. So I really had to sit with it for a while. Wow, look at that joyous kids.
We did got in, yeah.
I'm going to give them a little loving little talking to.
The mum of 3 juggled this project alongside her other work.
Kotiroma, I'm actually recording here, which is not funny.
Translating Disney movies into te reo Māori.
Kia tere ki ngā pai hou. It's an intergenerational opportunity for us working with something like Disney because their films are all family films, eh? So you have this opportunity then to reach a really wide demographic. All we wanted to do was for our kids to be able to walk into a cinema just like any other kid in this country, and just to choose a film, and choose a film in their own language.
And then the Venice Biennale last year happens.
For me, as a storyteller, it just started to ping, ping, ping. I have to go to Venice.
The most Māori artists ever were chosen to exhibit at the prestigious Venice Biennale last year.
This is monumental. We'd never had that many artists being curated before. They were also, happened to be, those artists were in TOITÜ Contemporary Māori art. So timing, atua, universe, whatever it was like, this is perfect.
Filming in Venice provided the last piece in Chelsea's documentary, TOITÜ Visual Sovereignty.
It's taken 5 years, but your timing is almost uncannily appropriate, isn't it, with what we're seeing now?
Yeah, with what's happening even in our own country. And it feels like we constantly have to be putting ourselves out there, fighting for us to have a voice.
Are you excited for everyone to see the documentary?
I'm quite terrified, actually, because I'm putting myself out there. But I thought, oh, well, you know, I'm almost 50. If I don't do it now, I won't do it. And I might fail spectacularly. Nigel, he knew how important this was for generations to come.
On a sad note, 8 of the artists actually passed away since the exhibition.
Robin Kahukiwa, who worked for so many women, so phenomenal, so groundbreaking. Fred Graham was working right up until he passed. And their legacy, that's the beautiful thing about making a piece like this. It's there now forever. It's really a privilege to have been part of that, to capture that. I hope this is a beautiful gift for them as well.
Hei tuwiki e tū mai nei e Hoama, coming up next week on The Hui.
Inspired by his whakapapa, promising fashion designer Vince Rupitini is making his mark in the fashion industry.
I love what I do. I love designing clothes, making clothes. I want to make it in the industry.
Now he's sharing his kākahu with the world.
I'd say most of my design comes from like a personal reflection and sort of my desire to like reconnect with te ao Māori and my whakapapa.
That is our hui tonight. Our thanks to all our pūkōrero and join us next week for another hui. Until then, e ngai wi kia mau ki te turanga o taputapu Aotea haumi e, hui e, taiki e.
Nā te puna whakatongarewa, te hui, I tautoko.